getting close to the big game, guys. Big game. Unfortunately, as usual, the weird techno gods aren't on my side. I've had some technical issues, so yesterday's podcast is going to come out today. This might come out today or tomorrow, but they work in conjunction. The podcast that should precede this is really to show you how awesome Tua, Waddle, Hill, and McDaniel are, how they are uplifting this protection in ways that I don't think I've ever seen before. And so when we understand what the protection is really doing, it enhances Tua's ability, Waddle's ability, Hill's ability, and McDaniel's ability. And I went through a whole host of statistics to show you what these guys are doing, which is insane. Truly insane, guys. So, but there was an incrementalism that I showed of when the play starts, the time to throw, drags on 1/10 of a second more, you see this, and 1/10 seconds more, you see that. And so today's podcast is about the Dolphins going against KC's defense. KC's defense does present areas for the Dolphins to attack, most notably in the run game, that can get us over the top. I don't know if we're going to win. It's a team game. Anything can happen. You see with the refs and all this other stuff. For me, though, the win would be, obviously the win itself. But if this offense can work against this defense, which is spectacular against the pass and spectacular in its pass rush, then whatever come what may, however they want to spin it, the optics at least on McDaniel, on Tua, on this offense will be kaput. And with yesterday's podcast, and then tying it to today's, the health of Tehran, the health of Connor, the health of Hunt, all these guys are going to create a much wider buffer for these studs of Tua, Hill, Waddle, and McDaniel to operate in. So let me get into it quick. But before I do, a little bit of notifications. Tomorrow night, I am doing my live at 10 p.m., going over the game between the Dolphins and KC and what I kind of saw. Right here is what I said last week. But for me, blockers per pass is the key. But we've got to do something about the blockers per pass. In week 1, you can see down here, BPP was 6.3. This year in week 2, it was 5.14. And that's how come we were able to get the time to throw at 1.98, because we had guys going into routes and we were able to overwhelm them, and Tua had options. And that ended up pretty accurate because I do put my time in. Not saying I'm always accurate, but if you go back over my pre-game analysis, I've been pretty good so far. So come join me at 10 p.m. a Friday night for my live here, so we could talk it out and work it out together. Because every time I do these things, I hear something or I learn something, and it makes me look smart. So come help me look smarter, okay, guys? And then on Saturday, I'm going to be doing the AFC Shakedown on this channel here with Tommy at Mafia Sports Report, Jedi Kev, at Jedi Sports Network, and Trevor and Juan, who cover the Patriots, and we're going to go over all the games. A lot of good games, a lot of big games. Critical week, really. So come see us at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday. All right, so anyway, the likes and subscribes, the comments, the views, all that stuff too. Please help me out with that. Anyway, let's get into it. So let's take a look at these advanced statistics of KC's defense. This is from Pro Football Reference. Great site. Check it out. And you'll see when you look at the Kansas City defense, they are ranked 4th in pressure. Okay, we are 6th. You can see here. You can see Buffalo is 3rd. And we saw we had problems with Buffalo. And Buffalo and KC are relatively the same, although they generated differently. We didn't have Tehran that day, and we didn't have Connor that day. So this is another reason why I say those pieces are going to be big for this game coming up. But across the board, they are excellent. 3rd in least missed tackles. You can see all the way to the right next to the pressures. And then on the left, actual pressures, they're 4th. Sacks, 3rd. Blitz percentage, 7th, which is much different than Buffalo. And this is where I think we have our chance, because Buffalo did not blitz. I think they blitzed 8 times. Philly blitzed like 4 times. And to me, if you don't blitz Tua, it's better than when you blitz him because he is aces against the blitz. But it's not always the same. But there is an avenue here, and they blitz 7th at 33%. And you can see what we did to the Patriots, who blitzed 41%. Yards after the catch, second least. So it's with the lack of missed tackles and the yard. This is a limiting secondary that creates cover sacks, that blitzes, but you got to earn your hay. And it's going to make Tua and this offense look phenomenal if they can do that against the Chiefs. Now, air yards, 10th least. They limit things mixed ways, using that pressure to get the ball off, but also just creating avenues where the quarterback realized, like, I got to get it out a little bit earlier and underneath. And then last, defensive air yards, total air yards, they're 15th, which is middle of the league, 8.1. And some of that's the pressure, and some of that is their coverage. So overall, this has been an exceptional pass defense, both in the blitzing, as I said, and the pressure and the coverage. Now, they're going to be missing Bolton, which is going to be a big deal, the middle linebacker. I love that kid. But add some other stuff in there. They're 4th in pass defenses. So they're playing kind of tight coverage, and they're getting their hands on the ball. I'm studying out the actual defense, how they call it tonight and tomorrow, so I'll have that for the live. And then the completion percentage is 27th lowest at 60.5. You can see Miami's 7th at 69.5. So that 9% difference is it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. So this secondary, I do believe that Fangio and this defense is going to limit Mahomes. This Kansas City team this year is living on their defense. And if we can break that defense, and I do believe the run game is going to play critical, but it's going to come also in us making hay in that pass game and not making mistakes. This is a potent defense. So I'm going to get into actually the top quarterbacks they faced, and you're going to see something very interesting when you combine it with my last podcast about the incrementalism of time and pressure. But first, I want to give a shout out to you guys and my sponsor, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so here's 4 top quarterbacks. I cut out the Bears, and I cut out some other teams. I forgot who it was. They're just not even in our realm. But these 4 quarterbacks are excellent players. They have good offenses, and so I think there is areas where we can extract information from. So here you go. You'll see got Jared Goff on the left, along with Cousins on the left. And then to the right, you got the more mobile quarterbacks in Lawrence and Wilson. Now, all 4 of these teams have semi-decent lines. Without Robinson, the Jacksonville offensive line is not good. And he didn't have Robinson, so it was a lesser line. The Broncos, even against us, you saw they were moving the ball, they just screwed up with turnovers and stuff like that. So they were showing something, and they have a pretty decent offensive line. And then Minnesota has an excellent offensive line, and so does Detroit. But that's with the less mobile quarterbacks. So I'll just put that context out there. We'll start with Jared Goff. He's more of the pocket passer, and Tua has had that build, but if you've seen, and I've talked about, his movement skills improving. And so we can extrapolate some from this, but not the totality. But you'll see yards per attempt, top is 7.2, 1 TD, 252 yards, 22 of 35. And then you'll see the time to throw in the different categories. I don't know why I put it in there. I think I'll fix that. It's 2, 3, 4. So they had a quick game, okay? Now, usually they have 2, 5, 6. So the Chiefs were able to get them to throw the ball 0.2 of a second quicker because of some reason or the other. I had to break into the film to find out. But that was 0.22 less than usual. And then if you go back to my last podcast and you see how if they could do that to us, that could be a problem. Now, why was that? Were they getting the ball out quick? Well, they only had 10 pressures and 1 sack. Okay, but that wasn't a great day with 1 TD, 252. So maybe they were playing the underneath game, and I'm sure they were running the football. It's just a loose bit of information you can hold on to. Now, Minnesota has a phenomenal line, and it had phenomenal receivers, 2 top receivers with Jefferson and the yellow rookie kid. 2 TDs for Cousins, 284, 29 to 47, heavy pass day. And the time to throw is 254, and it's usually 269. This is a little more concerning than the Detroit game, because this team looks like it had 15 pressures and 3 sacks. So it seems like the KC was able to force them to throw the ball earlier than they wanted, constrict the route so they would be forced to throw short, and did an excellent job at 0.14 seconds. And if you check, again, I'll mention my last podcast, that 0.14 seconds is a big deal. And so it's going to go back to Tua, Waddle, Hill, and McDaniel, and getting those few blockers per pass and to flood this secondary in order to get into that 3rd and 4th option to really make them pay. But that makes it a little bit more difficult if you don't have Teron, Connor, and Hunt. Their appearance is critical. Now, more in line, I think, where Tua is. I see Tua, maybe somewhere in between Goff and Cousins and Lawrence as far as his movement skills. But Lawrence, no touchdowns, 5.3 yards per attempt, 216 yards, 22 of 41. They don't have this offensive potency that we have, although they have more of a running attack offense, but they were forced to throw this day. The time to throw is 253, and they dropped it to 248. So they're forcing guys to get off their usual game, and they were able to generate 4 sacks and 15 pressures. And that, along with Minnesota, makes it concerning that they might get Tua to have to go a little deeper into his reads, but then still get that pressure where, we're still getting the ball out fast, but the pressure's coming in and making problems. So it's, again, Tua's going to have to be on his game. Now, if you look at the Broncos, you can't really count that because, Tua gets his ball off on schedule. Wilson almost never does. But I just threw it up there, 13-22. That was the win that just happened. 2 wins, 1 TD, or maybe that was the loss. I can't remember. I think it was the loss. It's one of the 2 games. It was usually 3.4, and then they made him delay even more, 3.12 at minus 8 seconds. And so he was trying to find guys, doing what he usually does, is scramble around and find guys, and he couldn't get him to do it. Now, if you go back and you look at 2-3-4, we've been getting the ball off at 2-1-6, 2-2-4. Against the Philly, it was 2-2-4. We had lots of pressure. So it looks like this Chiefs defense is able to play it how it wants by dictating on the field with its coverage and with its pressure. Now, I do think that Teron, Connor, and Hunt will allow us to dictate possibly more than any of these teams if we get that run game going. And so, again, this is why I say the run game is going to be critical. And we might not get those easy plays that we're used to. It's going to force us to be patient and to wait for those things to happen and break it open if they get impatient and we can constrict their offense. But if Tua, McDaniel, Hill, and Waddle blow this secondary and this defense out, sky is the limit. Sky is the limit. So that's the take on that. Respect this defense. I do like us if we have a mostly whole offensive line. And whatever happens, if this offense does make hay against this defense, it's a win. And obviously, if we win, it's a huge win. Anyway, guys, catch me on the live. Catch me on AFC Shakedown. Curtis saying, see you soon. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.